Namaste. Welcome to, I think this is maybe our third or our fourth Yogatonia online, a specific practice of yoga that is intended for those that have a diagnosis of dystonia and movement disorder. Welcome. I'm in Edmonton right now, just outside Edmonton in my hometown, St. Albert, and it is a beautiful day outside. And I hope that wherever you are, wherever this is finding you, that whatever the weather is outside, that perhaps the weather inside you is feeling calm. And if not, I hope that this practice serves to sort of settle the mind and settle the nervous system. For any of you who happen to be joining this workshop for the first time, my name is Jaya, and I've been teaching yoga for 14 or 15 years, around there, and working with the Dystonia Foundation, the Edmonton chapter, for a number of years. Again, I'm not sure if it's 7 or 8. And it's been my utter pleasure to work in this particular community of people. My experience is that there's just been so many open minds and so much receptivity. And I think these are crucial elements if we're embarking on a practice in which we're looking into the mind and looking into the heart. In this workshop, today I'm going to be focusing similarly to what we've done in our previous online classes. You'll see behind me, I enjoy my altar space, and I'll be utilizing a chair for about the first half, or a little bit more than the first half of this practice. The chair will be moved around a little bit. We'll be doing a combination of some sitting on the chair and some standing and some balance exercises through the chair. I know that some people do have mobility issues in terms of transitioning from chair to floor. What I am going to do is allot for a little bit more time for that transition, but you also have the option, if the floor part of the practice feels really unavailable to you, you don't have a support person with you, or it's just not working, that you could end the practice early. That's not a problem. My recommendation, if you are doing that, if you're choosing to leave the workshop a little bit early, is that you do take some time just to have a restorative few moments, maybe in silence, whether you're sitting on the chair and just closing your eyes and relaxing. We call this Shavasana, or corpse pose, and it's a final relaxation at the end of practice. So I suggest that you do take that time for yourself while the rest of us move on to the floor work. Also remember that you're listening first to your own body and your own anatomy. There is never ever a pose that presents the same from one person to another. Regardless of what kind of ability you have within your body, we are also uniquely woven together within our anatomical structures. That practice really does need to be quite individual and quite unique. In this way, you can modify according to the advice, particularly of your support team, your physician, any bodywork practitioners, your physiotherapists, but ultimately listening to your instinct and your intuition and the sensation within your body. We're often looking for sensation that's really meeting between enough sensation that you're engaged, not so much sensation that you're getting overwhelmed. That can kind of place us into this optimal state that they often call flow within flow psychology. That said, you might find even some of the chair work quite simple within the body, depending on what's going on for you. The challenge there is then that we begin to focus really on the nuances of the breath. So we know that breathing has both unconscious regulation. It's something the body automatically does. But it also has conscious regulation. And that's what's so interesting about focusing on the breath. When it's unconscious, it's moving from a more primitive part of the brain. That's necessary so that the breath can breathe and the heart can beat without us always having to think about it. What happens though when we start to consciously focus on the breath is it actually shifts where the breathing is happening within the brain to more of a sort of frontal cerebral context area of the brain. And this helps us bring some unconscious patterns, which shows up in our movement, shows up in our neurology, shows up in our nervous system, and brings it into consciousness. So the idea is that maybe we can relax some of those habits of movement that may not be supportive for your health and wellness. It also might loosen some of the habits of the mind, because mind and body are ultimately one. And the breath helps to mediate what seems separate and unify it into a whole. So please, as you practice today, listen to your body as if it was actually speaking to you. Modify in ways that make best sense for you, and feel free to rest, feel free to collect water, just feel free. I can't really see any questions as we go along, but do feel free to post questions, and maybe Archana, who is my tech support, might be able to see them, catch them, and then communicate with me. Before we begin, I'd like to share just a little reading that I found really inspiring this morning. It's from a book called The Wise Heart by Jack Cornfield, which is an exceptional read on some more of the details from a Buddhist perspective. And you don't have to, of course, be Buddhist to benefit from the philosophy of this ancient technology. Jack Cornfield quotes Helen Keller at the beginning, and she said that security is mostly a superstition. It does not exist in nature, nor do children as a whole experience it. Avoiding danger is not safer in the long run than outright exposure. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing. The author continues to say that one day my teacher held up a beautiful teacup. To me, this cup is already broken. Because I know its fate, I can enjoy it fully here and now. And when it's gone, it's gone. When we understand the truth of uncertainty and relax, we become free. The broken cup helps us see beyond our illusion of control. When we commit ourselves to raising a child, building a business, creating a work of art, or righting an injustice, some measure of failure as well as success will be ours. This is a fierce teaching. We may lose our best piece of pottery in the firing. The charter school we worked so hard to create may fold. Our startup business may go under. Our children may develop problems beyond our control. If we focus only on the results, we might be devastated. But if we know the cup is broken, we can give our best to the process, create what we can, and trust the largest process of life. We can plan, care for, tend, and respond, but we cannot control. And I found this reading incredibly inspiring, especially during this very, very strange time to be alive. The habit of the mind is always to close and to grasp and to make certain. And as all of you know, when you've been faced with something quite sudden, a diagnosis, physical pain, a pandemic, that sense of tightness becomes a real sense of suffering. And part of our work within the practice is to loosen that suffering the way that we go from a closed fist to an open hand. So as you practice today, just receive all of the uncertainty, the unbrokenness, the uncomfortable, and we stay within that spot, sort of between chaos and order, where some meaning and some growth can happen. So with all of that said, we're going to move towards our chair. I'm hoping that everyone can see me. You might not be able to see all the way to my feet or all the way to the tops of my fingers, but hopefully you'll be able to follow the movements. And again, just post a comment if it's too complicated. So going ahead and moving yourself towards your chair and just sitting with the back of the chair to your own back. Whether you sit all the way back into the chair, midpoint, or forward on the chair is always according to your comfort levels. Remember, there's really not a wrong way to do this. As you get acquainted into your chair, take a few moments, allowing yourself to shift from the thinking mind down into the feeling body. You can begin to feel each foot on your sticky mat or your non-slip surface or just the floor. And just take a moment to notice the left foot, to notice the right foot. And then inviting yourself to feel the current of the spine rising upright, sitting as tall as your symptoms and sensations allow for today. You may wish to place your hands, palms down in the lap, for a sense of grounded calm. Once your body feels safely situated, there's a sense of gentle height invited into the spine, imagining that the crown of the head was lifting and the tops of the shoulders get very relaxed, just as if they could fall down the sides of the neck and back into the body. Allow the belly to be very, very soft. We often tuck quite a bit of anxiety in here. Let the belly now in the privacy of your home be very full, almost like one of those little Buddha statues. If it's working, you can invite your eyes to become soft, and if comfortable, closing the gaze right down. Inviting a transition from the outer noise, the seeming complexities, to an inner stillness and a state of simplicity, no matter what your mind is doing. Feel the sits bones connecting with the wood or chair that you're sitting upon. And then a sense of narrowing concentration, bringing awareness all the way down to the tip of the nose. The mouth is closed very softly with the jaw relaxed. And you're just noticing the passing of your natural breath. It's very tempting to slow the breath, but just in these moments, we want to observe. This allows us to move from being so involved in our thought process to a state of more witness consciousness. We can watch the habits of the breath in the mind for just a few moments. Remember that the thinking mind has some momentum. And every time that you come back to the tip of the nose and this natural breath, we interrupt those habits. And then there's opportunity for new pathways in the mind. Beginning to gradually lengthen the breath. We're doing this very slowly. And today we're going to invite a count into the breath. We've used this a little in the past. And today we're just going to work roughly with the number 4. Your length can be different, especially if you have any asthmatic or respiratory conditions. So you can change the number. If 4 works, begin to inhale to a count of 4, feeling the belly swell. Inhaling for 4, 3, 2, 1. And just lightly hold the breath in for 1, 2, 3. And as you exhale, trying that count of 4 for 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4. Let the breath lightly be suspended in the body just for a moment before exhaling. 4, 3, becoming calm. 2, 1. Let's do a few more cycles with this breath. Take your time. You're working roughly with that count of 4 with a little pause between inhale and the spill of the exhale. Go at your own pace for a few more breaths, letting the abdomen inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding the breath lightly, relaxed shoulders, it's okay. And releasing the breath at 4, 3, 2, 1. The belly squeezes at the bottom of the exhale. So just go for a few more rounds at your own wonderful pacing. Let the surface of the body just be very relaxed as you breathe. Don't worry, however you're breathing isn't wrong, it isn't right. We're just working with this idea of lengthening the breath. Just a few more cycles. It's okay if the mind has drifted off, it's no problem. Concentration is like a muscle that we develop over time, giving more focus so we can be in the moment. Let's do one last cycle together. Inhale into your belly, feel the breath inhaling. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, that little pause, just letting the breath swirl before exhaling at that count of 4, 3, 2, 1. You are changing your inner chemistry with this breath. As you practice movement today, see if you can continue to develop the breath. Breath first, movement's almost secondary to that breath. Good. Taking your time as you inhale, begin to lift the shoulders up to the ears, towards the back of the chair, dropping them to the earth. We're simply circling the shoulders, roll them forward, inhaling the shoulders up and the shoulders back and the shoulders down and forward. Don't worry so much breath to movement. Good. Continue for just a couple more cycles. Just moving some hydration into these joints. Shoulders can be achy, particularly if you have cervical dystonia. You may have some symptoms happening. Don't try to repress your symptoms. You're in a safe space in your own home. Absence of any kind of judgment. Good. Go in the opposite direction now. Really exaggerated shoulder rolls. Wherever you are within Canada, you might be like me and having a lot of cracking and popping through those joints. Good. One last shoulder roll. And allowing the shoulders to settle. Very good. Release your hands down towards the earth. Take your time. Inhale, rise the arms up to shoulder height. As you exhale, bring a prayer to be pressed in your heart, palms into prayer. Good. Release the hands down by the ground. Again, inhale, rise the arms to shoulder height, little hover of the breath. And exhale, imagine the sun and moon being pressed together, the mind like a sky. Good, last one, fingers down to the earth. Inhale, flare the arms. And exhale, pressing your intentions into your actions. Good, very nice. Releasing the hands now to your knees. You might want to shift a little forward on your chair or staying back for better stability. This can look subtle. As you inhale, you're going to lift your ribs towards me, lift your heart like you're doing a little back bend, and you're just gently looking up. Good. As you exhale, round your back, tuck your chin to your chest, empty the low back. Good. This is seated cat-cow. As you inhale, you roll forward, the belly and the heart and the chin expose. And exhale, gently rounding, chin towards chest. Now I'd like you to go for a few more at your own pace, finding the rhythmicity of the breath, helping to move the body. Exhales, rounding the body, squeezing the belly in, emptying at the back of the heart. Let's do about 3 more rounds at your own pace. Good. So I'm going to do 1 more round. You might already feel complete. You might be enjoying this movement. It's okay if you're not. Last one. Inhaling into a little back bend. And as you exhale, that gentle rounding of the back, the spine appreciates movement. Good. Slowly allowing yourself now to sit quite upright on the chair. Let the shoulders drop away from the ears. Taking your right hand to the right edge of your mat, left fingers release. Inhale, the left arm rises to the side, if comfortable along the ear. You can always have a bent elbow instead. As you exhale, hinge to the right with the support of that right arm. Let's take a couple of breaths here. Inhaling if you can to the count of 4. Exhaling for 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. 1 more breath here. Good. Gently rising up, releasing those left fingers to the earth. Always feel free to shake out the arm, again, especially if the symptoms are presenting on that side. Second side, the left hand takes a hold of the left side of the chair for support. Right arm dangles. Now the right arm moves, inhaling the arm to the side, along the ear if you're capable today. And as you exhale, just gently hinging to the left. And now we take about 2 or 3 breaths. Inhaling for 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhaling for 3, 2, 1. Let's try another at your own pace. Inhaling and exhaling. Good. Take your time. Inhale, sitting up nice and straight, and let the exhale help fall that right arm down towards the ground. Good. We're going to try both arms now. Inhale, the arms rise to sides, high to sky. The movement stretches the breath. And as you exhale, bend into cactus arms, elbows bent, wrists over the elbows. Good. Release the fingertips down to the ground. We'll try this move again. Inhaling the arms to sides, higher still if that's available. And exhale, bend the elbows. Let the fingers fall at the tail of the exhale. Good. We're going to try 2 more. Inhale, the arms rise as if brushing your energy clean for the day. And exhale, this strength and vitality, bent elbows. Now the fingers are falling through the air. Good. Let's try just 1 more. Inhale, the arms rise. Feel your energy lifting through every cell. And as you exhale, a sense of victory as you bend the elbows, strengthen the shoulders. Good. Let the fingertips fall all the way down to the ground. Very nicely done. Good. Inviting yourself now to sit more forward on the chair. Again, only if stability allows. There's not a wrong way. With both your feet rooted, the knees fairly close together, arms towards the earth. Good. Arms in front now. Inhale the arms in front and overhead as if you were lifting the sun to rise. Now as you exhale, begin to hinge forward as if you were bringing the sun down to set. You can let the body round over the lap, releasing the head. Good. Press your feet, sunrise. Inhale the arms in front and overhead, lifting the sun to the sky. And exhale the arms to sides, fingertips falling to the earth. Arms towards me in front. Inhale the arms in front and overhead, again lifting the sun to high noon. And as you exhale, the sun sets. If this is sore in the back, you can use your hands and your knees for better spinal stability, letting the back round just a little. Good. Arms in front. Imagine lifting the sun. Inhale, rising the sun to the sky. And as you exhale, spread your wings and allow the fingers to fall. Good. We have just 1 more of these. Arms in front. Inhaling the arms in front and overhead. And as you exhale again, this hinge forward. This helps strengthen the back body, rounding forward. Good. Now walk your hands to your knees. Support yourself in rising all the way back up. Good. Coming to the ball of the right foot. So you're just lifting the right knee a little bit higher. Always mindful if you have hip replacement or hip injuries. If it's working for the hands, taking hold of that right knee. Good. If you can, lift the right knee higher. You might lace your fingers around that right knee. Again, it's okay to hang on to the leg different. Good. We're going to take an inhale here, lifting the knee a little higher. And now as you exhale, you're going to round your forehead towards that lifted knee. This is a little bit of movement. Inhale, the knee drops and the head lifts. And exhale, rounding the forehead towards the knee, subtle core contraction. Good, we have just 1 more of these. Inhale, sitting tall. And exhale, rounding forehead to knee. Good, allow the head to sit upright. Release your hands, release the foot down to the earth. Let the knee wave from side to side, just loosening anything in the hip flexor that might have grasped on a little bit there. Let's go ahead to our left side. You can stand the knee a little higher. If it works, you can hang onto the front of the knee or even under the thigh. Maybe the fingers laced together as you work to draw the foot off the earth. Good, let's take an inhale, sitting tall, back of the skull lifts. And as you exhale, we're going to work at rounding the forehead towards the knee. Good, as you inhale, the foot drops, the head lifts, tall spine. We have 2 more. Exhale, that little round forehead towards knee. And inhaling, rising back up. I think we have our last one. And exhale, rounding in. Good. Take your time, releasing that foot down to the earth. And again, you might find the front of the hip grasped a little bit. So we're just going to wave the knee from side to side. I find that challenging actually in my body. So if that's challenging, then we're in it together. Good. Now taking your time, we're again keeping the knees just fairly close, about hips distance apart. Good. Arms in front. Inhaling the arms in front and overhead. As you exhale that same move, imagine bringing the sun to set, letting the body round forward. And we're going to stay in the fold. Take about 2 conscious breaths here. Again, work with the number 4 if you can. Inhaling for 1, 2, 3, 4. And now really clear the exhale of the mouth. Like trying to fog a mirror. Try one more. Inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4. Let the exhale fall out the mouth. Good. You might like to use your hands and your knees to very gently help yourself begin sitting upright. Good. As you sit upright, take your left hand to your right knee. Begin to turn to the right. I like my right hand at the side of my chair for more stability. No forcing, very gentle twist. Feeling the height of the ribs. And a few breaths here. It's okay. Come back to the breath as often as you need. As they say, there's no punishment for going away from the breath, just the sweet reward of coming back. Good. And now taking your time, I'm actually going to turn my knees all the way to the right. So I'm spinning on my chair. This time, my hands are both going to reach to the back of the chair. We're continuing this twist to the right. Walking your hands to the back of the chair if available. Begin by inhaling, sitting very tall, very noble. And as you exhale, use the grip on the chair just to turn a little bit more. Let's take a few breaths here. Good. One more breath. You're doing wonderfully. Excellent. Release your hands down to your knees, turning the body straight. And then we continue to dance around our chair. We're going to walk the knees back towards your device, towards me. And it's okay to be ahead, behind, in your own way. There's no problem here. Second side, now my right hand touches roughly the outer edge of my left knee or thigh. I like to use my left hand on the left side of the chair. The inhale gives you length and height and inspiration. And as you exhale, there is depth, letting go, and an experience of being involved in the spiral of the twist. Subtly turning the body to the left. It's really not a big movement in my body, just enough to remind my spine of its mobility. Couple breaths here. Good. Letting that exhale just completely sigh from every cell, every natural breath, becoming more relaxed. And now releasing your hands, let the body turn. And again, we're going to spin now to the left, walking your feet over to the left so that the back of the chair is now on your side. Again, I'm going to work towards using both hands in the back of my chair. That may or may not work in your body. It's okay to hang on different. Gently beginning to continue turning towards the left, hands to the back of the chair, lifting up very tall. And I like to let my body move. So I'm not stuck in my pelvis. If the pelvis turns a little with you and the knees become asymmetrical, that's wonderful. It's no problem. We don't want to jar the sacrum. Take a couple breaths here. Good. Completing your next exhalation. It's always okay to stay longer. Releasing your hands down, the body unwinds the twist, and we continue to spin, exploring the full circumference of our humanity, bringing the knees forward. Very nice. Again, I'm perched a little bit more forward on my chair. It's okay to be a little bit more backwards. It sometimes depends on how the chair is hitting the backs of your legs. It can be sensitive. Bringing both of your hands to your hips or to the sides of the chair for better stability. Think of your right leg. We're going to move the leg on the breath much slower than we ordinarily like to. Good. From either variation, the right leg. As you inhale, the right leg begins to kick towards the screen. And exhale, slowly placing it back down. If you're a fiery type, slowness can be challenged. It's okay. Let's go on the left side. I'm pretty fiery at times. Inhaling, the left leg kicks out. Feel that quad wake up. Careful if you have knee issues or awaiting that knee replacement. Placing the foot back on the ground. Now I'd like you to walk at your own pace. The inhale will rise one leg. Feel the pinnacle of heat at the top of the breath, and then your exhale is going to set that foot consciously back on the earth. So let's walk at our own pace for a few more. Inhaling, the leg rises. You could be ahead or behind of my pacing. Exhale, that foot settles. I don't know about you, but my nervous system shakes around in this, in my legs. Good, a few more. Good. Notice if your torso is unnecessarily doing things. Of course, let your symptoms present. Invite that length into your spine as best as you can. You're still walking the legs at your own pace. Bring a nice warmth into your lower body. This can help us be more conscious of our inner environment as we move slow, help to release some habitual, maybe dysfunction within our movement, and just mimicking that energy of walking. Feel the belly, exhale and compress. It's a little belly hug at the bottom. Just a couple more cycles. Okay, if you're getting fatigued, you can rest. I always find these movements a little surprising, what sort of shakes in my legs. And sometimes we're just not even aware of where our feet, our ankles, our lower bodies, because so often we're up in our minds. We have complex lives. Let's keep it nice and simple. Good, if you feel complete from side to side, placing both feet, and again, we're going to wave our knees around. So any of that gripping at the front of the hip can hopefully just relax a little bit now. Good, letting the knees wave themselves out. Good, nicely done. Allow that wave of the knees to still itself. Take your time. We're mindfully going to inhale the arms to shoulder height. And now exhale, the left fingertips touch the left shoulder. My hand doesn't actually like to touch, so if you find yours dangling as well, no worries. Gently begin to turn to look at your right hand. It might be more of an eye movement depending on what's happening in the neck. Be very kind to your neck. Good. Inhaling the head back to center. Good. Let's exhale and turn the gaze to the right. Good. Inhale the head back to center. Reach the left fingertips out and exhale the arms down. Good. Second side. Inhale the arms floating up to shoulder height, just roughly. As you exhale, right fingertips to right shoulder. Good. Let's inhale to look at the left hand. And exhale the head back to center. One more turn of the gaze. Inhale to look softly at that left hand. And exhale back to center. Good. You'll inhale, the right arm releases. And exhale the fingers to the earth. I don't know about you, but the weight of the arms actually feels strong in my shoulders. Excuse me. Good. Now taking your time, you're going to walk your right leg forward. Again, I don't think we have too good a visual of my legs, but my right leg is kicked forward. Good. And you're sitting on your chair, again, where it feels the least pinchy for underneath of that leg. I like to be a little more forward in this pose. My right leg is kicked forward. My left knee is still bent with the foot rooted on the ground. Using my left hand on my left knee, the right hand on the side of my chair, very gently explore folding forward. So if you have very flexible hamstrings, maybe you don't feel much. If you're like most of us with some tension here, maybe some sensation. Good. Pressing up, gently sliding if you can that right foot under the right knee to switch sides. Now you're lengthening through your left leg. The right foot is rooted under the right knee. Right hand to right knee and my left hand to the side of the chair. As your pacing allows, begin to very gently hinge forward. Think of all the wonderful circulation, all the fresh energy in the lower and upper body. Good. With the press of your right hand on your right knee, very gently beginning to sit back up and bending in through that left knee, both feet are rooted. Very good work. So again, this next pose can be a little bit tricky, especially if you have complications in your hip. If that's true for you, you're just going to let your right knee fall out to the side. If you're able, lifting up enough that that right ankle might cross the left knee. This is enough of a stretch for many of our pelvises. If it's available, you can place your hands gently on your shin, mindful of your stability as you fold forward. And again, you just want to meet sensation. Sometimes we want to blow through sensation to a destination. Be in the process. There's nowhere to go but right here. Imagine your pelvis was also breathing. Inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhaling 4, 3, 2, 1. Relaxing. Let's try another breath. A full inhale through all those pelvic connections. A sense of your soul sighing, airing out as you exhale, letting go of the residue of your busy, complex week. Good. We're not staying too long. We do not want to stress the tissues. sitting yourself upright, any which way you can, getting that right foot to release. And if your knee was open and you were working with a hinge forward, allowing that knee to close. Good, just bounce the knees up and down, heels up and down. Just bouncing the knees a little bit. And now when you feel ready, second side. Again, you can work with that left knee opening a little bit. If it's available, the left ankle crossing over the right knee. So I actually have fairly tight hips. That's a lot of a stretch for me. I'm going to work at hinging forward just to meet that sensation. You might be folding a lot more than me or sitting really upright or in your own variation. And then we all do this work of staying with the breath, which challenges the mind. I understand. Stay with it, a few breaths. Good, you're doing so beautifully. Gently beginning to sit yourself upright had you folded. However it's available, you could release that top foot had it been lifted. Had you chosen an open knee, closing the knee. And again, I just like to bounce the knees a little bit, just letting the energy move around in the lower body, just get that little bit of bouncing going. Good, very nicely done. Good. Now taking your time, widening the legs. For this, I'm going to shift towards the back of my chair for more stability. And again, I don't have a super open pelvic structure. Your knees might come wider, or they might be quite closed, depending on how your bones fit into that pelvic bowl. Really cool to study cadaver anatomy if you ever get a chance. And a little gross maybe too. Good, placing your hands onto the front of your chair. Again, I'm slipped quite back to my chair for a lot of stability. Good, we're gonna take a big inhale here. And as you exhale, allow yourself to be hinging forward. If you feel like you're gonna fall off of your chair, please just hinge a little bit. If you can, reach your fingertips towards the earth. Remember, they do not have to come down. Letting the body round only as much as you need. Another option is elbows to knees as you hinge forward. Good, let's take 2 conscious breaths here. As you exhale, the nervous system becomes calmer. You feel more centered in a space of grace. Good, let's take that one last breath together, taking a full inhale, combing the breath through the body. And as you exhale, the mind releases, moving from a sense of control to a deeper state of permission and allowance of life. Good. Now I like to walk my hands up to the chair. If your hands were down, support yourself and gently rising your way back up. Inviting the knees to stay wide. Release your right forearm down to the right thigh. The body is going to hinge. Bending your left elbow, you can take your hand behind your head or over top of the crown or reaching it long. If that's exasperating neck or shoulder symptoms today, of course, your hand can come down. We want to release the fascia along the sides of the body so the ribs have more of a thoracic movement on the breath. Let's try a couple of breaths here. Good, one more breath. Inhaling, the belly floats, a sense of the ribs just giving some space to the heart. Good work. Very slowly allowing the body to upright itself, noticing any differences. And now the left forearm to that left thigh, the body is going to naturally tilt over. The right hand could stay down behind the head like a crescent moon. Lots of option for your top arm, wherever it needs to be. Notice though, if the whole body lifts up, you still want to have a sense of being fairly anchored in that right area of the sit bone or the bony part of your buttocks. Let's take 2 breaths here. Remember, the breath is very detoxifying for the body. You are doing something so wonderful, even if you took 10 breaths throughout these 2 hours. Really, truly, you're doing something awesome for yourself. And then that calm state you gift to others as well. Good. Mindfully beginning to draw yourself back up, letting that arm release had it been lifted. And again, you're just noticing how the side waist feels. Not a wrong way to feel it. Good. Taking your time, you may need to shift a little more forward as you invite your knees to close together. Good. Take your time and just give those knees a shake from side to side. Beautiful. Take your time, press the right palm towards me. Then turn your fingertips down, again, depending on how this is working within your body. If you can, your left hand takes a hold of your fingers. And now you want each finger to be pressing into that supportive hand, as if you were playing the piano onto your left hand. So the right fingers, index, middle, ring, pinky, and just go a few times, feeling each finger sort of activate and press into this left or supportive hand. Good. You're still breathing. It's okay if the breath is shifted a little more to its unconscious state. That's okay. Good. Now release your left hand. You'll make a fist with that right hand and see if you can circle the wrist out. Wrists are so tender. I've had lots of wrist stuff. Good. Rolling it in all directions. And releasing that hand down. Second side. The left palm presses towards your device. You can turn the fingers down. The right hand supports, gently drawing the wrist into openness. And then again, go through each finger on the left hand. So it might be starting with the index, the middle, the ring, the pinky, and just sort of pressing each of them a little bit. Nice work. Beautiful. Letting that right hand fall. With the left hand, you can make as much of a fist as you can, and you might be circling it out. The forearm can get pretty tight, actually. One little trick for the forearm, it may sound really, really silly, but if you have a rolling pin, if you do have really challenged wrists, you can roll out the forearm muscles, or get someone else to help you. Might sound a little weird, but I found a lot of release from a rolling pin on the forearms. Those get very, very tight. Good. Let's very gently release that hand, just noticing how the body feels. Good. Continuing, the arms are falling to the earth. Inhale the arms to shoulder height. As you exhale, hug yourself. Doesn't matter which arm on top, hug yourself. Good. Inhale, look to the right. And exhale to center. Inhale, look to the left. And exhale to center. Good. Let's inhale and breeze open the arms. Now your opposite arm on top, if you remember which. Exhale, hug the opposite arm on top, as if you could touch the back of the heart. Inhale, look to the right. And exhale to center. Inhale, look to the left. And exhaling all the way back to center. Very nice. Let's open the arms. Inhale, the arms expand. And exhale, they fall. Good. Now again, depending on what's happening within the chest muscles, shoulder, the neck, I'm going to reach my hands to take a hold of the back of my chair on either side. Again, depending on your chair, that may or may not work. Reaching the hands behind, and I'm just gently shifting a little bit forward. Good. Now take an inhale and think of lifting your chest up. And we're going to take a few breaths here. This is a bit of a back bend. Please be really mindful. I do not like to tilt the chin all the way up. I don't find that a supportive movement on the neck. It's okay to lift a little. We really don't want to crank the back of the neck. Good, just a couple more breaths. Notice the breath moving from the belly, up the heart, towards the collarbones, maybe that count of 4. And as you exhale, you feel the breath just come all the way back down, down to the pelvis, and the belly squeezes at the bottom of the breath, stirring the sediment. Let's take one more in this funny little back bend. Good. Release your hands. Allow your body to adjust. You might just tilt the neck a little side to side. Good. Very nice. Now, taking your time, we're going to do a little bit of a breath exercise. If the arm movement doesn't work for you, I find it challenging. We'll have the arms overhead and the palms either together, or you could steeple the fingers. The index finger is pointing up. If that doesn't work, you could hold the arms open or the arms cactus, or do this without the arms. It's not a problem. From either variation, if you're rising the arms overhead, rise them overhead. You again might steeple them or keep them apart. Good. Now, as you inhale, you're going to go to the left. And as you exhale, going to the right, all the way to the right. Good. Inhaling to the left. And exhaling to the right. 3 more rounds. Inhale left. Exhale right. Inhale left. Exhale right. Remember, this can be done without the arms and just some side to side movement. Last cycle. Inhaling all the way to the left. And exhaling all the way to the right. Good. Now to center. Inhaling up to center. And as you exhale, just allow your arms to release had they been lifted from either variation. Just give yourself a little bit of a wiggle. It might feel silly. That's okay. You're in the privacy of your own home. Good. Now keeping the knees just a little bit wide, we're going to circle. So again, I'm comfortable a little more forward on my chair. You might need to sit more backwards, especially for if you have any balance challenges. Good. So take your time. As you inhale, you're going to sweep your chest towards your right knee, towards your left knee, and exhale the back half of the circle. Good. As you inhale, you're rounding forward to the right, to the left, and exhale. Imagine a back half of the circle. Let's go one more time. Inhaling forward, over to the left, exhale, circle away from your device over to the right. And now we're going to switch directions. Slowly begin to circle back over to the left. Think of hinging at the waist, less of rounding at the low back. We have a couple more. And if it feels a little odd, that's okay. The spine actually likes some spiraling motion in my experience. It's okay if that's not true for you though. Let's do one more. Circling over to the left. Over to the right. And exhaling through that back half of that silly circle. Good, allowing your spine to center itself. Good. We are going to move towards standing now, using the support of the chair. If you need to sit in the chair, you can of course modify this practice. One way to do this is to also have a little step stool underneath of the feet or a block that can support you. But you can use unique modifications, and we can be in contact after class for me to give you further suggestions. If you have a support person with you and you need support, please access that support. And taking your time to very gently begin standing up, excuse me again, making sure that you're on your non-slip surface and that you do have this chair for support. Ensuring that your chair feels very steady. I use a traditional but very thick yoga mat. That might be very, very good for you as well. Having the chair to one side, through the back of the chair to one side, and taking your time, you're going to bring all of the weight into the foot furthest away from the back of the chair. For me right now, this is my left foot. Bringing your hand for stability to the chair, gently place all the weight into that opposite foot. Now, if one-legged standing balance is quite difficult, this is your pose. Simply shifting the weight into the left foot, but notice if your hip does something funny. I'm going to keep the hip centered and just practice the weight in that left foot, maybe lifting the right heel up a little bit. If it's available to you for this moment, you can step that right foot right onto the chair. Good, and we're just going to take a breath or two here, grounding the bottom big toe into the earth. And just feel that your toes have a little bit of a monkey reflex, a little bit of grabbing at the mat, not a full toe curl, but just a little bit of the toes hugging at the mat. Good, again, I'm always surprised. I'm just standing, but lots of things are shaking in my nervous system as I concentrate and stay still. Or maybe if some of you have drank some coffee like me. Good. Now again, you can stay exactly as you are. If it's possible, bringing that left hand to the right knee or your opposite hand to your standing knee. I know it can be a little confusing when I turn the chair sideways for the video. Good. Hand to knee. If your foot is on the ground, you'll just place your hand towards your opposite hip. Very gently begin to turn towards the direction of the back of the chair, twisting towards that lifted knee. Don't let your hand collapse your knee in, keeping the knee over top of the ankle, whether that foot is lifted or standing. A couple more breaths in this twist. I love twists for the body, as long as we're not forcing them. Very gentle. Good. Last inhale. And exhale, releasing your way back towards center. Good. Now walking that foot all the way to the back of the chair, let the knee widen to the back of the chair. And very gently, if you can, hinge forward. Good. Again, you can do this with this right leg down. If it works, you might be planting your hands on the chair. My knee is to the side of my shoulder, getting a little bit of a hip stretch, and you can always keep that bottom knee a little bit soft. We don't want to lock the knee back. A little bit of softness so the joints are dialoguing. I know it's a lot of information. Let's just breathe. Couple breaths. Good. Nicely done. Let that exhale all the way out. Gently walk your hand up to the back of the chair and allowing that right foot to release or the heel to drop to the ground. Again, you might want to give your knees a bounce, shake the hips, wiggle them out. Just kind of loosen things up a little bit. Beautiful. Now, two options. It can be awkward to turn the chair, especially if it's on a sticky mat. What you might prefer instead to do is walk around for the second side, if that's available for your balance challenge. You can do this from the same side, but I like the back of the chair for support on this. I'm going to walk around my chair using my hand on my chair for stability to switch hands. Now that my hand is switched, you can again bring the weight into the outer leg where there's no back of the chair. So just bring the weight into that foot, notice. Begin lifting the left heel. And remember, that's plenty of balance challenge. That's great to stay there. If it's available, you can lift, well, tongue-tied, lift that left foot or the opposite foot towards the back of the chair. And then just pause, getting very tall, noticing how you feel. If you notice that the belly is sticking out, it's sort of collapsed, bringing that nobility and that sense of tall dignity, no matter what's happening in the body. Good. Now bringing that free hand to the knee and you're turning towards the back of your chair. Or doing it differently, that's okay. It's a little twist towards your lifted foot. Good. Allow yourself to quietly unwind forward. And now I'm going to walk my knees so it's much closer to the back of the chair. And again, you might be still having your foot on the ground. It's no problem. You can gently begin to hinge forward. If it works for your proportions, for your symptoms, maybe the hands come to the inside of the foot on the chair, and we'll take a few breaths into the hip. Again, this is fine to do this with your foot down and just hinge a little bit forward. The body is never fooled by any kind of force. Go very respectfully, very merciful with this precious body. Good, that's a really long hold, good for you. Gently beginning to walk your way up, using your hand. Again, I like to support myself back of the chair and sliding that foot off or releasing the heel to the ground. And again, you just take a little bit of time to wiggle, to sort of move around, noticing how you feel. How you feel is so, 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 so important. Good. Now I am going to turn my chair. However, you can, of course, I have a bit of limited space, so I don't want to walk to the back of my chair. But we want to, have our torso facing the back of the chair. I'm turning mine. You can feel free to walk to the back of yours. Good. Now that we're at the back of the chair, I'm going to walk myself further back. And then very gently begin to bow as if my forehead could come to the back of my chair. I'm not a tall person. I'm also not a short person. So remember, this is different for each of us. Hanging onto the chair and just imagine your forehead bowing down. Take a couple of breaths here. Close the eye. Good. Walking your hands to the very top of the chair, allowing your body to step upright. And then we're going to take it a little bit further. So again, I'm just moving my chair for ease of visibility through our Zoom, but you're simply going to walk yourself further back. So we're going to walk even further back, inviting the arms to be as long as possible while you still have balance support. So you want a good grip on the chair if you need a lot of balance support. Walking yourself as far back as you can to see if your arms can stay long. And I'm dropping my body towards the horizon. So you can see I've got a pretty good hinge. I'm not rounding my back, but I'm also not back bending. So there's a sense of being in the horizon. This is really important because when we drop the ribs, we lose core control. Tucking the ribs up, lifting my abdominal organs into my body. So it's kind of an active stretch. It is an active stretch. Release your head between your arms and take a few breaths. Good. Letting the last exhale complete itself. It's okay to sigh out the mouth. Good. Take your knees into a soft position and let your spine climb up naturally. Good. And then very gently, we're going to step one foot. I'm going to take my right foot forward towards the chair. And then just stepping my left foot a little further backwards. You might notice your back foot wants to turn out. That's okay if it turns out a little bit. Don't worry so much about that. Right toes are pointing forward towards your chair. And very gently, again, we're imagining that the forehead is going to come down towards the chair. Even if you have that flexibility, you could walk a little further with the hands down. Lifting the right kneecap as much as you can. So lifting the right kneecap, and imagine the right knee was rolling outwards. Right big toe is on the earth. Releasing through the back of that stepped forward leg. Couple of breaths. Good. Let the right knee now soften. If your hands had moved, walk them back up to the top of the chair. We're going to work at stepping up to the chair with that back foot. Again, you can do this differently. It's okay to be very unique in this practice. So I'm gently softening my front knee, my right knee, and I'm stepping my left foot up to meet my right. Now that I'm forward, I'm going to still think of my left leg. My right leg is my grounded leg. Leaning a little bit forward, kick your left heel behind you as if you were trying to kick a ball behind you. Good. And then just go back and forth a few times. Kick behind you, let the foot float down. And again, if this is very challenging on one leg, just let the weight shift a little bit. Practice just one-legged standing, just a little bit. If you're moving the back leg, just keep moving it. It may not match the breath. Kicking behind, feel the back of the leg really waking up. A lot of us have very weak backs of the legs, especially yogis. We often joke that yogis have stringy hamstrings. We stretch them too much, don't strengthen them enough. So let's strengthen them for a few more cycles. You're just kicking that left leg behind you. Good. Now let's release the left foot down to meet the right, standing very tall. Again, you might want to bounce the knees, shake things out a bit, let yourself feel a little bit silly. Switching sides. Now my right leg is stepping as far back as I can, grounding the foot. Now my left leg is my front leg and straight. And I'm very gently going to begin bowing my forehead towards the chair. Let's take a few breaths here. Walking your hands up. Sorry, soften that front knee. Make sure that it's got a bit of softness in it. Never locking. Walking your hands up to the back of the chair. And this is, again, a big step in. So if you need to sort of jog that back foot in for balance challenge, balance stability, go ahead. Of course, no problem. Getting both of your feet to line up near the chair. We're going to pulse that opposite leg back now. And again, you can practice instead just focusing on balancing on one foot if this is too challenging for today's practice. Now my right leg is kicking behind me. And my movement's quite small. I've got my leg maybe only moving about a foot. And that actually seems like a lot. So keeping the leg quite straight, kicking behind you. You might have sensation around your sacrum, and your low back will be working a little bit too. This is good. We want to wake up all those tissues. Good. Allowing the feet to stand side by side. Again, soften the knees. Waking everything up. And now placing your fingers or your hands right onto the back of the chair. I'm stepping a little bit further back to give myself that good arm support. And simply as you inhale, you're going to lift your heels and balance. I know you can't quite see my feet, but I'm balanced more on the balls of my feet. And as you exhale, bring the heels down. Good. Inhale, lift the heels as best you can. Exhaling down. 3 more. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Last one. Inhaling. And exhaling. Good. Again, give those knees a little bit of a shake. Now, 2 options. You can do this with your hands at the back of the chair, or you can turn and practice with one hand on the chair. If standing on both feet is working for today, you can also use no chair for balance. From either variation, stepping the feet about 2 fists distance. Think of those bony parts of your hips coming down your legs and into your second toes. That gives you a rough estimate. We don't want the feet too close together and not too wide apart, getting a decent distance. Now, if you do have a lot of knee challenges, you may wish instead to stand upright. Or try some chair pose. So again, either variation, hand here, no hands, or both hands. Good. Take an inhale. And as you exhale, you're going to imagine you're sitting into the chair without pulling the chair down. So if you notice that starts to happen, pause your move. If you're feeling fairly strong, you could walk your hands down the sides. Or again, you might be doing this even with no hands for support. Letting the knees bend. Good. Let's inhale and stand tall. And you really want your bottom to stick out while your chest stays risen. Good. Let's exhale and sit into our imaginary chair. We're going to go for 3 more. Inhale, standing tall. Exhale, sticking the bottom out behind. My knee never comes forward of my ankle. Inhale, standing tall. Exhale, sitting in. Good. We have 1 more. Inhale, standing tall. And exhale, sitting into that imaginary chair. Now we're going to take a couple breaths here, building leg strength. It's okay to be so subtle in this. It's okay not to do it. Whew, I was tired on my legs. Good. Let's very gently begin to stand up. And again, I love to wiggle the body out, shake everything around. Good. Now, if you're using the chair for balance, you're going to work, if you can, with one arm, switching arms, doing a little bit of spiraling. If you need both arms on the chair, you're just going to simply spiral the body a little from side to side. In its fullest variation, with no use of the chair, you can release your arms and just gently begin to twist from side to side, letting the arms follow. So again, if you're using the chair, it might look a little slower. And you're just letting the knees bend in opposition to each other. Let the movement be quite fluid. It's okay if you need to go very, very slow. It's okay if you like speeding up. So again, you're taking that motion in your own unique way. My knees are bending in opposition to the side that I'm twisting at. Sensing the centrifuge of the body. Good, just go for a few more. Don't worry if it feels kind of silly. Sometimes I think that's a little part of the yoga practice, is just getting into that space of being a little bit uncomfortable because we're moving the mind and the body at the same time. Good. Allow the motion to naturally begin stilling itself. Allow yourself to center. If you can, close the eyes for a moment. And just being in a space of quietude, just a breath or two. From the stability of the back of your chair, releasing both hands to the back of the chair, gently beginning to widen the legs further apart. Please be very, very careful if when widening the legs you've stepped off of your non-slip surface. Be especially mindful. You may need to turn. Totally okay. So we're going to widen the feet. And again, I don't have a very wide-legged stance, so I'm just widening mine as much as I can. And very gently beginning to bow the forehead again towards the chair. Now, if you have quite a bit of flexibility, you could always walk the feet a little further back and gently hinge a little bit more forward. Good. Now, taking your time from any variation that you're in, the toes are pointed directly forward. The toes are not pointed out or in. Toes directly forward, legs are fairly wide, and we're going to bend the knees as if we could put our rib cage right in between the thighs, but don't worry about that. Use your chair, bend your knees, sticking your bottom out behind you so most of the weight actually shifts back into your heels. This is challenging. It's a little awkward. Just 2 breaths. Inhaling. Exhaling. Good. Inhaling. And exhaling. Press your feet as you inhale, standing straight up, And you might want to gently heel toe your feet together any which way that your feet can get together, allowing the feet to come together. So my apologies, I'm just checking to make sure that I'm on track with time, which means I just have to turn my phone for a sec. Good, beautiful. Now do feel free. We are going to be moving towards the ground. That transition I know can be quite challenging. If you have a support person, inviting them to support you in moving to the ground. That said, floor work doesn't work for everybody. It can feel compromising. A couple of options are to modify by sitting onto your chair. You can even do this work on a bed as well if you want. Or you can opt to take that Shavasana, or that final relaxation that I shared with you at the beginning of practice. It's simply sitting maybe back into your chair or into another comfortable position, and just letting all of the work of the practice go. No more breathing, no more consciousness, and just allowing yourself a couple of minutes of total quiet. If you're continuing to journey with me, you'll be removing your chair from off of your sticky mat or asking someone to support you with that. So I'm going to go ahead and set my chair aside, and I'm adjusting again my device so that hopefully there is good seeing. Good seeing. Good. So again, my apologies. I am not a technical expert. Good. So bringing yourself to the earth any which way that you can. I've recommended this in our previous practices. This is something I do within my own home practice quite a bit because I do have quite a bit of tension. I actually broke my back when I was younger. So I have a underlying condition. Many people have sore backs or tight backs. What I often take is just my prayer shawl, which is quite thick, and I fold it so it's a good size. I also have blocks. I don't find them too comfortable, so I don't actually use them. A cushion can be really nice, or you can roll up the end of the mat. What we're doing is sticking this under the bottom, so there's a little bit more height, and you'll notice that the hips stop grabbing as much, especially if your knees tend to sit quite upright. It doesn't even mean that you're not flexible, it's just often the way your bones are placed, again, the femurs into the pelvis. Good. So once you have gotten yourself a little bit higher, if you're like me and not very flexible, sitting into what we call Sukhasan, which means easy pose. Doesn't feel easy in my body, actually. The heels are roughly lined up in front of the pelvis. However, sometimes a crisscross, like they might teach in kindergarten, but just that natural cross of the ankle is a lot more supportive on the body, especially if you have sore backs or hips. Either variation. Once you have found either variation, begin to walk your fingers, towards your device, towards me, and you're walking out just as far as sensation allows. So I'm not going to go too far, just bowing in enough that I'm sensing some sensation in my pelvis. Allow the head to drop down. And let's take 2 breaths. If you were sitting on your chair, one option would be to cross your ankles and allow your knees to simply drift open. That could be a modification for continuing with chair practice. Beginning to walk your hands back up towards your body, and we're simply switching the cross. My outer leg becomes my inner, and my inner becomes my outer. Again, if you have knee issues, that can be sensitive, and you may instead want to focus on sitting upright or lessening the bend through the knee. Once you've switched the cross, again, that crawl forward, you're hinging into sensation. Try to avoid rounding and hunching just as much as you're allowed today in your anatomy. I will always remind you, you can't be wrong in yoga practice. You can't get it right either. It's an exploration, moment by moment. Take just a couple breaths here. You deserve this calm inner state, particularly if your life has presented you with a lot of physical discomfort. Just work with the breath. Worry less and less about any kind of posture. It's a process. Good. Walking the hands all the way back up towards the body. Notice how things feel. They can feel funny. Now connecting the soles of your feet together. Bring the soles of the feet forward. This is one I really like to use support under the sits bones for. And that's okay if you don't have it. Again, you can kind of roll up the end of your mat, giving yourself a little bit of height. That'll help you tilt forward. Connect the soles of your feet with your knees wide and your heels just as close into the pelvis as possible. The knees don't like sensation. So if you notice any sensation in your knees, any kind of pinching or pulling, please adjust your pose till there's no knee sensation. Good. I don't have a lot of movement. You might have more. Letting the body begin hinging forward. In traditional yogic practice, we call this Bhattachanasan, which simply means bound angle. The feet are bound together, and we have all these angles, the knees and the hips. Good. Take a few breaths here. Also, remember that sensation always should be devoid of any kind of pinching, any kind of high pitch pain, any burning, numbing, tingling. Then we want to adjust the posture. Sensation should always have a bit of a dull feel to it, maybe a little bit of ache as things move. I like to work with minimal sensation versus seeking any kind of extreme sensation. The body just isn't fooled by that extreme sensation. Good. It's okay. Wherever the mind is gone, come back to your breath. One breath at a time, sitting the body nice and upright. And now let's balance the knees. Now I know that sometimes these movements, again, they can make you feel a little bit silly. But under that is a sense of playfulness. And if you ever want some really interesting research, researching play circuitry is quite fascinating. I always think that man should have gotten a Nobel Prize. But it went largely under the radar. Mammals have an entirely separate play circuit. And I'm always curious what happens to that as we age. And so we want to wake up some of that playfulness. I always say that creativity is the way that we clear karma. And karma is simply the repetition of habits. You know, what our parents did, what their parents did. Conscious movement, conscious breath helps us to clear that karma and become creatively engaged with life. So let's just be silly for a couple more breaths, balancing those knees up and down. This is from a Kundalini yoga pose, helping to loosen all those pelvic structures. Good, allow that bouncing to still itself. Let's gather up the knees, close the knees together. Oh, we see those Alberta hips. We got a lot of dry weather here, so the body can be a bit achy. Good, standing your feet in front of you, just wrap the arms and allow your head to round forward for a breath or two. You can rest as long as you like, or rising the head back up. Walk your feet a little further. Again, I'm going to turn for visual purposes. You don't have to turn. And for this, I like to remove what's underneath of me. But you might find it more comfortable on your sacrum or your tailbone, especially if you have any symptoms that are presenting. Lots of us just have SI joint dysfunction as well. So I'm removing this. You might want to keep it steady. Knees are bent, feet are in front, hands on the knees. Good. Take an inhale to sit as tall as you can. Now this could be your pose, or you can begin leaning back till you feel that little work in the core. We never hear the end about core work. It is important. So you can hang onto the knees, or try reaching your arms forward, or rest. Couple of breaths here. Good. Take a hold of your knees. If you're not already, come forward. Let the belly really relax. Let's try again. Gently begin to lean back until you feel your core work. Hanging on still, or try reaching the arms forward. Again, rest is a really, really high relevant practice. It's okay to rest. Good. Hands to the knees and very gently allowing yourself to sit upright. Now, walking the legs nice and long. Scoot around until you feel that you're fairly centered on your sits bones. Had you removed your support, this is another one, your sits bone support. This is another one you might like to tuck that underneath or roll up the mat, because the temptation will be to do this. We're looking to sit upright and hinge forward. I'm going to go ahead and support elevation under my seat. Good. And then once you feel quite acquainted, again, we'll take that inhale. I like to think of bringing dignity into the body amidst all human condition. And as you exhale, you'll hinge forward. I'm going to walk my hands down my legs. Again, I don't have super long legs. I can reach my toes. Doesn't matter if you can't. Let's take a few breaths here, closing the eyes. You might be folding even further forward or not at all. Good. If you feel pretty complete within this pose, use the support of your hands to very gently begin pressing it up, pressing your body up. As you arrive, bend through your left knee. Take a hold with your opposite, your right hand, or your entire right forearm can wrap around. I kind of prefer my hand for me. Beginning to twist to that knee, twisting left fingertips are behind you. Again, we're avoiding any collapse. Have as much length in the spine as permissible by symptom. You may want to turn the gaze. And even imagine that your right eye was looking behind you as you breathe. I like twists for a variety of reasons, but again, I only like them when they're fairly subtle and when the pelvis isn't being fixed in the twist. So again, if you feel that your pelvis turns a little, just let a little bit of that turning happen. Twists remind me that I'm not just a linear process marching towards some end, that I'm seasonal. We're like the cycles of the moon. There's endings, there's beginnings, there's brokenness, there's wholeness. And we just welcome the whole human mess in. Good. Take one more inhale. You're doing amazing. And as you exhale, gently turning yourself forward. Now that left knee is going to fall towards the side, tucking my foot towards the inside of my long or right leg. Again, I'm still sitting on some support. Imagine that the center of your heart folded towards the inside of the right leg. Allow the body to gently begin hinging forward. Again, don't worry if your movements are subtle. Subtle can be very powerful. Let's enjoy some breath here. Good, nicely done. Use your hands to walk yourself back up, allowing that left leg to reach out. Switching sides, now the right knee is bending, foot to the earth. We're going to twist to the right. Left hand takes a hold of the right knee, or you can hug further. Twisting right, the right fingertips behind you. And letting the breath really move through the abdomen, soothing any inflammation in the belly, helping to support that gut-brain axis. Just a few breaths. Good, unwinding the twist. And now your right knee can fall out to the right side, the sole of the foot, somewhere along the inside of that left leg. As you feel ready, the low back is lifted and you're hinging. So again, I don't have a big hinge, tempting to round. Let's just hinge a little bit. My legs aren't long, so I can reach my foot even with that little hinge, but you might be somewhere on your nice long legs. We'll enjoy a few breaths. Traditionally, this pose is called Sukhasan, which literally I think means head to knee. You could. I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to sit nice and upright and take a few breaths. Good, nice long hold. Let's very gently allow the body to begin sitting upright. You can take that right leg out nice and long, give your knees a nice little bounce, give your shoulders a nice little bounce. Again, I'm turning towards you for purposes of viewing, maintaining my support underneath of my sits bones. Good, you can have your legs long or you can bend your knees. Sometimes the legs long can not feel supportive. Couple of options. This is a great one if you're still sitting within your chair. As you inhale, floating the arms up to shoulder height. As you exhale, hook your left elbow under your right elbow, and maybe your hands come together. I have pretty flexible, naturally flexible shoulders, so that really works for me. For a lot of people, an option I find that's better is hands to opposite shoulders. So you see that my elbows are just roughly stacked and my bottom elbow is lifting my top elbow. It's tempting to gather everything to the face, settle everything down. So you're either in that traditional Garudasana arms, means eagle pose arms, hands together, backs of the hands close, or your hands to your opposite shoulders. Tuck the chin in slightly. Enjoy your breath. Truly, when we are focused on controlling, all we wind up having is a lot of anxiety. because we cannot control all the factors. You already, of course, know this, having experienced a diagnosis. And so we're just letting go into this moment, knowing you'll have the resources for whatever comes next in your life as it comes. Gift yourself a calmer nervous system so that you can meet those surprises, the joys, the difficulties, the in-betweens. Good, nicely done. Let's very gently release the arms. And again, I like to shake things out. My body responds to that. You might think that feels too awkward. It's okay. Second side when you're ready. Inhale, the arms float. And exhale, the opposite elbow, right under left. And again, you might just hook them. Backs of the hands near. Fronts of the hands together. Often the hands to the shoulders feels better. Even though I'm quite flexible through my shoulders, some days this is just a way better option. I have young children, so I'm constantly lifting them. Just enjoy your breath. Good. Release your arms. That's a really nice long hold. Give any kind of shaking out that you need. You can move things around, move your neck around. Adjusting now to laying onto the ground. Again, this may or may not work for what's happening for you. You can continue to be in your chair. You can take a Shavasana. We'll be at Shavasana collectively quite soon. Good. Again, I'm just poking up my phone. I'm a little time deficient. I don't want to keep you until many hours later. Good. So we're slowly releasing towards the ground. I've removed my sit bone support. And there's one final pose before we do take our rest. So laying down on the earth, bending through both knees, arms spread to shoulder height. Let your knees fall to either side. Don't worry about stacking them, lining them. Just let them naturally fall. And just take a couple breaths. Notice if you can let more heaviness into the head. The temptation is to really brace as if you suddenly had to move. There's no sudden movements here. Let the earth hold you the same way you trust your bed when you go to sleep in the evening. Draw the knees to center. Take a moment in your center. You might be adjusting the body around. And only when you feel ready, letting your knees fall down to the second side. Again, notice if anything feels pinching or pulling. You can adjust the top leg. You can make this your own, absolutely. If you are in the chair, you may choose to take a bit of an extra twist, just bringing an opposite hand to an opposite knee and turning in the direction of that hand. Good. Allowing your knees to come all the way back to center. If you can, draw your knees towards your chest, wrap your arms. If you need the legs down, just give yourself a hug around the chest. If you're in the chair, hugging yourself. If it's available, you can round up a little bit, just like you're holding all the different parts, all the different roles you have to play. Being human is challenging. And now we're ready for our final relaxation. Lying on your back, again, doesn't work for everybody. One of the things I find helpful in my own body and through my years of work with people is to, again, take a cushion, a blanket, a support, and let it be placed underneath of your head and sort of gathered around the neck. I find that especially if there's a lot of symptoms, this can support, especially if your mat isn't very thick. Good, so coming onto your back, another thing I find really uncomfortable in the back is, if you're laying on your back, is if you have back challenges. What can be more helpful is if you have a bolster or, again, a pillow and tucking it underneath of your knees so the knees are bent. Certainly okay to lay with bent knees, to lay on the side, or to maintain sitting in your chair. You can even move to your bed, privacy of your own home, and there's no wrong here. I'm going to give you a minute just to get yourself adjusted. You may wish to ask someone to dim the lights if it's feeling bright in your environment. If you were playing your own music, you may wish to switch to a softer sound. So just getting yourself nice and comfortable. I'm going to sit for this portion while you, again, either remain in your chair or in a much more comfortable position. Or if you're seated on the ground, moving to a wall. We'll probably do some wall work, I think, next time we gather. For today, getting very comfortable, very relaxed. And you might want to move around your limbs, move around your body, until you sense there isn't that readiness to get up. So all of that energy relaxes, and you're inviting yourself to be very supported by the frequency of the earth. If you're comfortable, close your eyes. And just imagine that your eyesight faded towards the periphery and towards the back of the skull. So there's no need to strain as if you were seeing outwards. All that energy is coming back into you because you deserve to receive. Every human needs so much wonderful self-care. So allow the gaze to soften and begin to scan the body from crown to soles of feet. Relaxing the backs of the shoulders, feeling the elbows heavy, maybe the backs of the hands on the earth. Observing the points of contact along the back, the upper back, the low back, the sits bones or gluteal area, the calves and the heels. And these areas begin to melt and get heavy. And you're merging with this state of relaxation, like a single raindrop falling down and down from the sky, meeting a still pond, and just a soft ripple across that pond as the two separate water bodies actually become one. Your natural exhalation continues to guide you into deeper calm, a deeper okayness, a trust that even when things appear to be broken, they still resonate with wholeness, because wholeness cannot be taken from wholeness. Only wholeness remains. I'll be leaving you in a brief period of silence, and the sound of my voice will be inviting you back before the end of our session. And like fireflies dancing in the darkness, a spark of movement and warmth begins to move into your fingers and your feet. You can stay in this restful state for as long as you like, or wiggling the toes and fingers in preparedness, and eventually rolling to the right side of your body, or the left if that's better. And once you have turned to a side, just notice your human body. And support yourself in coming up to a really easy seat, or of course remain seated on your chair or against the wall if you've chosen. And once you have come upright, simply bringing your left hand to your heart area. Press in just enough that you can feel all of that humanness. Maybe you can actually feel the beating of your heart. It's said that that heart frequency actually radiates about 6 feet away from your actual human body. And when you spend time with another person, your hearts actually begin to entrain, kind of like grandfather clocks falling into sync. So just notice that individual heart, all of its grief and its joy is totally valid. And grief and joy exist on a spectrum. And so we let all of our humanness in. Bringing your palms into a prayer, and you may wish to gift the benefits of the practice to someone you know who is experiencing some suffering. Taking a private moment with this. We're just gifting the benefits to the entire world as we globally explore all of this uncertainty. Traditionally, at the end of practice, we chant Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti meaning peace. And peace is what you are underneath whatever the mind is doing. I am so grateful for those of you who joined. For those of you who may be viewing this video at a later date, I so hope that it supports you in small and large ways.